welcome back to the Gyrl podcast. I am Kyra. Today, I am talking to Katrina Aronson. She is a marketing and business strategist, and we are talking about finding your brand voice today. So thank you, Katrina, for joining the show.
Hi, Kyra. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and jump in. Why don't you tell the audience about yourself and what you do?
Perfect. So as you said, I am a marketing and business strategy coach. I work with female entrepreneurs all over the world to help them to grow, to start, to scale their business depending on where they are. I tend to work with creative businesses, but really our goal across the gamut is to help people in business with whatever it is that they're struggling with. And my magic juice happens to be marketing.
All right, I love that, your magic juice. So in my everyday life, that's my magic juice. I work in marketing as well. So really excited to have this conversation, and especially around this topic of finding your brand voice, because I think a lot of people don't think about that when they start businesses or when they're on social media or they're just telling their brand story. So I was like, yes, I love this. So let's go ahead and talk about, what the brand voice is for anyone out there that may not know. Let's just go ahead and lay that foundation.
Perfect. So your brand voice really comes from who the heck you are as a brand and what you believe in, and what your expert position is, kind of your core values as your brands, and then also takes into account who you're speaking to. So who you're trying to attract. I like to think of your brand voice as your personality as it aligns with the people you're speaking to. So if you're if you're speaking to teenagers, for example, you're going to speak very differently than you would to a 50-year-old woman. Mm-hmm. So taking those things into account, but also your personality.
Yes, I think that's so important. So let's say, for example, can you give an example of a brand that you think has a really defined and really strong brand voice out there?
Okay, so someone that I really like, I really love JetBlue. I think they do a really good job of speaking to a different group, and I like to compare them to someone like Delta, right? So they understand who their audience is, and they understand that they get to be a little bit funky. They get to be different. They get to cut through. You know how their flight attendants will get up, and some of them will even sing to the people on the airplane. That's still part of their brand voice. We don't maybe recognize that as the consumer, but all of the pieces in marketing, it's really just the touch points that the consumer has with the brand. So all of those things are very well thought out, from the way their marketing looks to that person speaking on the loudspeaker and getting to sing in front of all the passengers on the plane. All of those pieces are the brand voice.
Right. Okay. So that I love that example. I think that's really great. So for anyone that's starting out, or if you were going to be working with somebody, what would be the first steps to helping someone build their voice and tone for their brand?
Yeah, sure. So when we talk about something like JetBlue, it becomes really overwhelming because you're like, how do I even get to that place? So we start at the very beginning, which is where everybody starts, right? So that's the part that we have to take off the table. None of us are JetBlue day one. This is all coming from a place and a strategy from the very, very beginning. So my particular process, and everybody has a different process, starts with a really basic questionnaire. And this is really important because as much as I love coaching, there has to be that trust factor, the understanding of who you are as a person, what matters to you as a person, and then we can dive into what matters to your brand. So we're starting from who you are, what your goals are, and then we start talking about what you want your brand to talk about, and we start peeling back all the layers of the onion it really is like, have you ever taken like a personality test?
Yes.
You know, the
Yes.
Enneagram. I'm so obsessed with those. And I love figuring out like, what are you on the personality test? And once you can kind of figure out who the person is that you're talking to, so my clients, for example, then we can go into, okay, I get you as a person. Now, how do we make sure that your brand, if it's a personal brand or if your brand's an extension of you or however that plays out, your brand is authentic to who you are as a person, and we can curate that so that we can create the pieces that your consumer sees. And it really is a process, and it evolves just like my brand evolves constantly. And I think that's the coolest thing about being an entrepreneur too. Like, we get to decide the journey that we're on.
Yes.
And nothing about it is stagnant, right? Isn't that
right?
Oh, it's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. It's so different working on my own business and my own brand, personal brand of my business versus working on like a corporate brand. Because a corporate brand is, sort of has, like you said, it has those pillars, and obviously a corporate brand can still evolve, but there are going to be just some things about like they're the core pillars that you're always going to sort of be that way. And when you're doing evolving your own personal brand, you just sort of you can be like, oh, okay, well, you know what? We were here this year, so let's turn it this year. Or you sort of grow with like your audience in your target fan base, or the people that are actually consuming your product.
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah.
For sure. But I do think you were just saying the corporate brand. I like to be real as concrete as I can be with my brand, with my clients' brands. We actually build out your brand pillars because, I mean, I don't know about you, but when I'm talking on social media and I'm talking on a stage and I'm talking in an event and all these different places, you have to come up with content, and it can be a lot. So you have to pull from a place that it makes sense, and you're constant across all your platforms. So we have brand pillars so that you can just pull from the brand pillars. Like, does this make sense? I can gut check myself. And I know that if I'm growing my brand and I'm giving some pieces to someone else to do, like a virtual assistant to help me, she knows this is how she speaks. She would never talk about this. She would always talk about this, right? So it's part of, like, as you know, you're going to grow. It's important for you to have
those. I love that. And can you actually just maybe set up how that overall like content strategy, how those pillars come to life, like how, and the importance of like staying consistent and tying to that framework of how you speak in all the places that you may have content, or you may be a personal speaker or something of that nature. That's so important.
It's so important. And you probably know so much about this too. So I'd love to hear your value on this as well. But, it really depends on the brand. And like I said, we start at the place where we figure out who you are as a person and what matters to you. And then we move on to your brand and really understand, like, okay, what does this brand stand for? What are the things that truly, truly matter to your brand? And the person always comes through, no matter what. If they're like, my brand's totally separate from me, it usually there's parts of you that are threaded into it, right?
Right.
So we start establishing, like for my specific brand, which is Katrina Aronson Consulting, we talk a lot about having a sustainable business and being a mompreneur and being able to do all the things, and like, what does that actually look like? And being tactical. And so that is truly a brand pillar within our brand. So I like to talk about 5 of them and come up with the core concepts, if you will, that align with my personality and what are the things that matter to me as a brand. So mompreneur, empowering women in every place that I can. And then I always add in kind of like one thing that's a little bit offbeat to keep people interested, like coffee, right? So That's something that my consumer is probably drinking. And if she's not, then she's crazy. But, I'll slip in like, okay, fine. I like you too, if you like tea, that kind of a thing. So I can be kind of silly and funny, but
right.
My person is probably likes coffee, and it happens to be something that I consume, a lot. So I care about. And so, yeah. So we in, 3 or 4 things that are constantly coming up for you as a person, and you want to come up in your brand consistently. And then kind of one little outlier that ties into all those things, like coffee or wellness or something that aligns with your particular brand.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you. And it's so funny because when I started the job I'm at today, one of the things that I was handling was social media. And so I was like, oh, so do we have social media? Do you have a content strategy? And the person working on it was like, well, no. And I was like, well, how are you creating content? Like, what are you writing about? Oh, we're just, we're just sharing things that people send. We're just talking about products. And I was like, no, that is absolutely the wrong thing to do. And so, so then I started to like outline a social media strategy. And when I got to the pillars, and I was like, well, this one page right here, like, this is it. This is the thing that we talk about things in these buckets. And here are supporting, like, here are the types of graphics that we might use. Here's the type of imagery that might support it. And, and it was just so like funny to me that, that we didn't have that already. Yeah. But the thing that I think actually, I think when you work in marketing and you don't realize that maybe other people just sort of, you take those things for granted of which what to do. So like personas. Mm-hmm. And building that, that's your target audience is you have to build personas, and you sort of do like the way you talked about just then. You were speaking to a persona of like who your client is this maybe mom who's a entrepreneur, mompreneur. She's like, I can see her. She's like getting up, she's getting her coffee, getting the kids ready for like virtual school. And then she's going to sit down and try to like do some of her like business stuff. But like, you can see that person. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people don't quite get like, they don't understand that. And so when you're talking through, like whenever we're starting a project, then I'm like, okay, so first we want to like look at the persona and we want to figure out what are the pain points. So we want to create content that feels like it's solving a problem for them without them even knowing that, or we want to know like, what are the things that come up first for them when they're making a decision to start a project or to do whatever it is that we want them to do in that journey. So I think it's like, it's the most interesting thing to me as a marketer, and especially as someone who creates like a lot of content, is to be able to drill down into those little like nuggets of what motivates someone to actually do something. And but a lot of people, like, to me, that's the most important part. Like if you're building like a brand or you're building a content framework or trying to tell stories.
I think what you just said, you nailed it too. I think of marketing, and if you have a love of marketing, and there's probably a love of psychology in you too, right? Mm-hmm. So you like people.
Yeah.
That's what marketing is. It's so beautiful because it's truly just connecting with people. If you take out all the other stuff, it's understanding how we work as human beings and then connecting on a deeper level.
Yes.
And I don't know your personal values, but I would bet that you value connection pretty highly, because I find that marketing people tend to be people who love to connect. Yes. So I think if you really take out all the other garbage and fluff and jargon, at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. So of course there's a persona that we're imagining in our minds, and it's not like a robot, but we're coming from a place that we happen to know a little bit more because we've been doing it for a little bit longer. But getting people up the speed and breaking that down, like we're talking to a person, we're not talking to an idea. Yes. What does that person look like to you?
Yeah.
That's actually a really fun exercise that I do with clients. And we'll kind of visualize her or him. What does she look like? What is she doing? Just like we were talking about the mompreneur. but then we'll go on to Pinterest and we'll actually pull a picture of
Yeah.
someone that we're imagining she looks like. And people usually have a pretty strong idea of what she looks like. No, she's not blonde, or no, she doesn't wear that kind of clothes, whatever it is. They don't necessarily recognize that it's in their brains already, but when you pull a picture of her and you give her a name, so this is her name and her name is Lisa and this is what she looks like, and then you print that out, it's pretty powerful for you to actually speak to Lisa rather than this random mompreneur that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, yes. I definitely, I love, and I agree, everything you just said. Like, I love that because, when you are in the marketing industry, and a lot of times, businesses can be B2B or B2C. And I work in a company that is heavily B2B. And I remember just saying to somebody, I was like, well, it's B2P. Like, it's just the person on the other end. And it's like, I said, like, they're just a person, just like you, just like me. And you have to think about how you make decisions, how you choose a company. So chances are they are probably doing a similar thing. So we need to stop, because we're B2B, thinking that we have to be over technical or we have to sound so super smart or so intelligent, and maybe just relate to, use those personas and look at those people. And that's one of the things that why I feel it's important to have like the more of the lifestyle information, more of the personal of what they like to do versus they're the person that's in line and they are the second decision maker, and the decisions stop here. But they still also like other things. And you can, and I always tell people, I'm like, well, if we're trying to reach this, say this woman who we know that she likes HGTV, then why don't we show up on hgtv.com where she's probably spending some time, or why don't we show up in a Instagram feed where there might be HGTV, where she might be. And I think that's, like you said, that's the human part. That's the authentic part, is because you're truly trying to connect in a space where someone may really be, and not just seemingly just putting out that formal statement of like, come buy our products. So I'm like, yeah, those things are the things where I'm like, no thanks.
I think what you just said too, because we're talking about like smaller entrepreneurs, it might feel overwhelming to say, I'm going to buy ad space on HGTV, because obviously B2B, there's a little bit more of a budget.
Right. Yeah.
Love what you just said, because you can clean that up with copy. Like, forget about the big ad spend. If you're talking to a person and she likes HGTV and you know that, start talking about HGTV, start getting in her head. And, like, those are the small things that trigger people. That if you know that she likes Starbucks coffee, I want you to buy a $50 gift card to Starbucks and email it out to people and say, I bought you a gift today, because that's what she's doing. So if you have $50 to spend in your ad instead of big ad spend, there's other ways that are creative, and to forget about the fact that we're humans and we all have things that we like, like you're missing the human aspect, and you're talking to Facebook ads rather than the person behind the Facebook ads.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I love that. And and while I have you, I'm going to continue to ask you more questions, just as, being a small business. And I think that a lot of people, I love that idea about the gift card, and just connecting to people on a different level, and not just always coming at them, because I think a lot of times small businesses think, well, I have this one chance, right? Because you're thinking about the Instagram algorithm and how you're not showing up, or you're thinking about Facebook, how like nobody, because I'm not a Facebooker, but I have it because I have to have it for Instagram. So, but I love Instagram and I love Pinterest. And Pinterest has been really good for my business. personally for Glow Up Girl. But I mean, if you wouldn't mind, like if you can give some more tips for small businesses and just some things that they might be able to do from a marketing advertising, because like you said, when people hear like buying ads or advertising, they think, oh my gosh, I'm small, I don't have money, what can I do?
Right. That's a big pain point that a lot of my clients have. And I think we're always as entrepreneurs drinking from a fire hose, right? There's always something we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And we probably don't have a whole team. Maybe you have one or two people that are helping you. And that's the typical entrepreneur that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
So when we hear ad spend, we freeze. And that's okay. But you're going to get to that place if you're doing the marketing well, right? So our goal is for you to get to that ad spend, but what do we do now to focus on really, really good marketing so that you're finding your clients? And for my best advice is don't be in all the places. You're not going to be effective if you're in all the places. So find your two, if we're talking about social media, find the two social media platforms where she lives. And for, like you said, you're on Instagram and Pinterest, and that's great. So I want you to pick one of those two platforms and spend 80% of your time on one of them and then 20% on the other. Because if you split it 50-50, you're not showing up in the way that I really, really want you to have that powerful effect. And it looks like this. So you're not just posting and walking away. That's not what social media is about. And I think we lost that when all these platforms started coming up, right? There was a time when we were sitting on Facebook back in the dizzy, like forever ago when it first came out, and everyone was like spending hours actually engaging with each other.
Yeah.
That's what the original reason was that these platforms became. So if you actually think about it that way and use it to socialize, and I recognize that you're not truly doing that, but I want you to actually try to do that. So go onto people's pages, engage with them genuinely. Don't do it because I'm telling you to. Like, find people who interest you, start commenting on their stuff, and spend a lot of time before you're actually posting. And then I want you to also post about 30 minutes after you've been engaging. So if you engage first and then you post, you're going to see a lot more traction on your post because the platform is going to reward you essentially for doing what you're supposed to do on the platform. And then you also should stay on and engage afterwards. So that is like so much time in itself, but social media is actually like a job, right?
It definitely is. I mean, that's why you hire social media managers and coordinators and all those different people, because it does require full-time talent, and isn't that the funniest conversation when you are proving that point to larger businesses? Like, no, we need this person. Let me tell you why. Because I think people do just think like it's like, oh, well, I mean, we just need somebody to post. Can't you do that?
Yeah.
No, you need somebody to engage.
And you need absolutely, you have to have a content strategy, which is what you mentioned before, making sure that you actually are showing up in a way that's putting you in a position of power. There's value behind what you're saying. You're speaking directly to who your client is consistently, and you're using copy like HGTV, right? So you're using your brand pillars within the content. So you're showing up consistently. You're doing it on two platforms. You're doing it in a way that's actually engaging and not trying to beat the algorithm. That's not what we're trying to do.
Exactly.
And show up. And then additionally, it's really like, for me, what really works is getting people off of social media and starting an email campaign. And it doesn't matter if you have, most people are like, oh, I have emails, but I don't do a lot of, it's okay. Like, start from zero and start creating an actual email list and then creating an email strategy. And the most conversions that I see is through email, because you're establishing know, like, and trust. And those are the three really fundamental things in marketing that if you have those things and people trust you implicitly, they buy from you.
Yes. Very good. Those are great tips for the audience. So because I thought, like, if I heard somebody say one more time that they can't beat the Instagram, or Instagram keeps changing the algorithm, I was like, no, I mean, I think you just have to be doing stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like, I think you like have to like actually be doing stuff. You can't just like it's just show up and post and it's gonna be like, oh yeah, push it to the top, push it to the top.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think that we have to recognize too is the algorithms are going to always change. Mm-hmm. They're always going to, we keep hearing this, we do not own our social media. It is absolutely true. And that's not going to change.
Right.
We're trying to beat it. Like, if you can't beat it, join it. Like, how do you recognize, okay, I'm not going to be able to beat this. Yeah. So what else can I do with it?
Exactly.
So social media can't be the only thing. For the love of God, please don't make it your only place to be.
Yes. Please don't, because you will be disappointed every time. Mm-hmm. Like you'll be disappointed. It's like, it's so, even, I had to say at my company, because they're like, well, we're doing sponsored ads. And I don't understand. I'm like, you and everybody else, like, just like we said yes, and we put some money behind it. There are 1,000 and other companies that are doing the same exact thing. So this is just almost like you're doing it because it's necessary. Mm-hmm. Because you want to show up there, like you said. I mean, and if you're able to establish a community and a place where people, like you said, people trust you and people feel like, oh, wow, like I'm going there and I'm actually getting something. Like those people get me. Like that is the thing that, I want with my brands, for people to go, oh man, I feel like that Kyra, she gets me. Like she understands what I'm going through. And when I go to people's pages that I follow and that I may like, and, actually like make an effort to go to their pages, that's because I feel like those people understand me. They get me.
And when you get to that place, that's the trust place, right? Mm-hmm. So when you get people to that trust place and you truly do get them and they feel that, mm-hmm. you are going to get sales with ease because it's going to feel authentic. And that is what it's all about, right? Yeah. You're not selling from a billboard, you're selling from connection.
Yeah.
So that happens if someone shows up. Think about your favorite influencer, or, this is why influencer marketing is so strong, mm-hmm. because when your favorite influencer that you've been following for 3 years shows up and says, I swear this mask is going to kill mm-hmm. it for your skin, you better believe you're buying that, right? So,
right. Yeah. Right? I mean, yeah. Like, I mean, I bought an $85 candle over the Christmas break from an influencer that I follow because I like her. Mm-hmm. The fragrance of the candle, it actually sort of makes me want to vomit a little bit, only because I don't like rose. Like I don't like the smell of, I'm not a rose girl, but because I like her and I want to see her succeed, I'm just like, she's an entrepreneur and I'm like, go girl, go. And just seeing everything that she put into launching that product. And I was like, I'm going to support. I mean, I may not like this scent, but I know she's going to come out with others. So definitely going to buy those. But it was just that thing, when she put out something that most people probably wouldn't pay $80 for a candle. Mm-hmm. When you're thinking like, oh, I can go to Target or I can go to Bath and Body Works and get it for less. But it was just because it was like all the work that went into building out that brand and the teasers that she gave and all those things. And it was like, oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited. And, even just the anticipation of like it going on pre-sale and being one of the first 100 people to get it.
Absolutely. There's so much that too. And they're really, you were connecting with a human being there. You told the story, like she took you behind the scenes. You mm-hmm. knew her before this happened. You've seen the transformation. Mm-hmm. And if you're involved in that whole process, you're going to feel connected. And again, there we go. Like that's what marketing is. If you feel connected, the rest is easy. It doesn't mean it's going to happen 100% of the time. And I think that's the mindset that kind of screws people up is, okay, know, like, and trust. I'm trying to get people to like me, so I have to act a certain way. No, not everybody is going to like you. And in fact, if they do, then you're not doing it right, right? You're going to have to pee some people off for some other people to become your fanatic fans.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, I love that, because that is definitely so true. I mean, and I think too, because I always make this comment, I would tell people at work, I'm like, I mean, I think I just have a personality. It's like either you really, really like me, or you're like, she's all right. And they were like, what?
Yes. And we have to be okay with that in our brands. Because when you stand out enough for people to not like you, that means that you're doing something right. Isn't that so bizarre? But it's true. Yeah. And that's where you actually see people converting. So converting meaning actually making a sale, because you're actually connecting on a deeper level, and you're triggering some people.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So you're triggering them because you're going deep. So that's good. Yeah.
Yes. No, I agree there. I like that. So, so you've given us a lot of very valuable information today. So talk about some of the programs. So anybody who's interested in working with you, what are the programs that you offer for women?
Well, I so appreciate that question. So right now, I actually just launched a course. So this is not an evergreen course. It's probably not going to be available when this comes out, but just so people know kind of what I'm all about, it's called Building a Badass Business. And it's really kind of the essence of what I believe in. And that is every single entrepreneur has to start at the beginning to do it right. So I want you to have the tools in a way that I did not. This is my coaching business is my third business. I've already built 2 businesses in the jewelry and fashion industry. And I figured it out the really, really hard way. So I want you to have all the things that I didn't have to build out your brand, to do it right, and to do the work. And it's hard. It's really hard, and it's digging deep, and it's like those personality tests that we were talking about, but it's a DIY framework, so that you can do it on your own time. So it will be available again in April. So that will roll out again. Perfect. And then other than that, it's coaching with me. So that's all one-on-one. And that's really fun. I mean, that's my favorite thing, because I love just really working and peeling back the onions.
Awesome. I love that. And I especially love that you are sharing your secrets, and you're sharing the information and the tools, and teaching people how to have the same success that you've had. And I think that is, anytime I hear another woman saying that and offering that up, it just makes me smile, makes my heart happy, because that's what's so important, is to not just get your own success and then just go, it's mine. It's to be able to share that so other women can also experience that. So thank you, Katrina, for what you're doing.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for saying that. I feel all the things you're saying. And I believe completely, like, from a place of absolute abundance, there is enough for everybody in this world. So the magic happens when you find people who are willing to pull you up. So whatever that looks like in your life, surrounding yourself with people who are 10 steps ahead of you. Yes. All day long. Do not be the smartest person in the room. Find those people who are willing to share the secrets, because that's the mistake I didn't make, because I was playing it small. I did make, because I was playing it small, and I was fearful, and I was coming from a place of scarcity, and learning that's actually really unhealthy, and you're never going to grow if you're not around people who are already 10 steps ahead of you.
No, I'm right there with you. But, it also takes, it shows the evolution of you. It takes someone, that has grown to be able to say that, you made mistakes in the past. And so I really, really like that. And that's one of the things I like about being able to do this show and being able to have these types of discussions, because it's just the transparency from the guests of, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and how did they shift or pivot to get to where they are today. So I think that's always really key, because nobody got there like without mistake, without some kind of mistakes.
So true. And if they did, they're lying.
Yeah. and you are spot on with the, like, you can't be the smartest person in the room. You've got to have other people around you that actually just, you got to have people in your circle that scare you. Like their success, you're like, oh my God, that could be me. Like I could get there. And because if you're just always with people who are at the same stage as you, and you don't know how to get to the next level, and they don't know how to get to the next level, then you're just at the same level complaining about not being able to get to the next level.
That's true. And you don't know how to troubleshoot it, right? So there's going to be, that's what being an entrepreneur is. It's a freaking roller coaster. There's so many emotions that are high. There's so many that are low, and there's constantly drama in business. It's just figuring out how to get over that hurdle. And it's really hard to do that when you've never experienced that hurdle before. So being with someone who's been there or can help you through the mindset work, or, you can just bounce ideas off of that isn't going to just be stuck in it with you. That's actually going to propel you forward.
Exactly. Yeah. That is some great advice, people. So take that. Take that. All right. Well, now we're at the point of the show where we do 5 things. So 5 things with Katrina. And these are 5 questions that will help us to understand a little bit more of the inner workings of your mind.
Love it.
So how do you start the day?
So I have 2 kids. So generally I like to wake up about 30 minutes before they do and do some kind of journaling. I'm not religious about what that looks like. Spend about 5 minutes, take a shower, blow dry my hair, and have some me time. Always have a coffee before they get up. And then we go to school, and then mommy comes home and I jump right into work. That is my joy. I love doing it. So that's always how I start my day.
Awesome. And you have done, like, you do a lot before you start. So that's that's good. What time do you actually get up?
6.
Okay.
I used to get up at 5:30, but I'm not a morning person, so I accept that now.
Hey, I mean, and you know what's funny is like, it's just 30 minutes in between when you were getting up and when you get up now, but there's just something in your mind that tells you like, well, it's not super early.
It's so true. There's something about the 5 handle that just really messes with my mind. So I let myself creep to 6 and I feel really good there.
Nice. What's a project that you're working on that you're really excited about?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I've told you I really love connecting with women who are in business, and I love helping them. So I created this event that's called Safe and Social, which really came out of Corona. So we come together in a really safe space. I happen to be lucky and I live in Florida, so we get to do a lot of stuff outside. So we're fully masked. We have presenters, everybody's distanced, and we do it in a way that I get to promote the women who actually come. There's very little in it for me, but I get to connect so genuinely with these people. And this has been a passion project of mine that, I'm having another one on February 18th. And I'm just really, really excited because like I get to do things even in a pandemic in a way that feels really authentic to me and helps other women.
Awesome. Love that. What's one goal that you set for yourself or your business in 2021?
Ooh, okay. So I actually just hired a PR team. So I'm going to say this out loud for the universe to hear. I am going to get on a national platform to be able to speak about women in business in 2021. It is to ultimately grow my business, but it's really because I want to be able to reach way more people than I am.
All right. I like that. I received that for you.
Thank you.
Also, okay, let's see. Because we talked about personality tests, I have to know, what's your favorite personality test that you've taken?
The Enneagram.
Ah, okay. And what number are you?
I'm a numbers. 30, which is like a really super driven. There's a lot of cons to that too, by the way, but very driven and very focused on business and super, super productive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a 3. I'm also a 7 and a 2. So the 2 is the giver. And I actually can't remember what the 7 is, to be honest.
I think I'm a 7. And I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think I'm a 7. I can't remember the other one, but I love all the personality tests. I love Fascinate. Advantage is one of my favorite ones too. Ooh. And I'm like, I love Strength Finders. Like,
me too. Yeah, that's a very good one too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of freaky how much it reveals about you. Yeah.
Yes, and how it changes. Like I did strength. There was probably like a 5-year like gap between me doing Strength Finders, and some of them stayed the same. Some of the top 5 were the same, but I think based on the job I was doing. So something sort of shifted just slightly, but I definitely love that. And what's your Myers-Briggs?
Oh God, I haven't taken the Myers-Briggs in so long. I actually don't know. I would have to do that again. Strength Finders is the one that I did most recently, and it kind of blew my mind. How spot on it was. But honestly, what you just said about it, taking some time and then taking it again is very helpful too, because I think you're right. I mean, it's what's strong in the moment, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think you still, like, I unlocked like all of them because I just needed to know the order. But it's just, what I love about it is I think it's probably my favorite because I feel like it's so great in a world where people often minimize people for not being a certain way, especially in corporate America. Like, obviously, when you're an entrepreneur, I mean, you're doing your own thing, so you don't really care what other people think. But when you're in a corporate work environment and working for somebody else, I think a lot of times people are minimized because they may not think the way someone else thinks, or they may not, what looks like leadership for one may not look the same for somebody else, but that doesn't mean they're not a leader. And Strength Finders, to me, always, as a manager, it always allowed me to see the things that were key for and strengths for my people, and use those to elevate them and amplify those strengths versus wanting them to just be clones of me.
No, that's true. And actually, I had a person actually do the Strength Finders for me and analyze it for me. And she also did my husband. And that was bananas, because you see, like, I'm a dreamer and he is analysis. So we bump heads so much, right? So I'll be like, here's this amazing dream that I have. And he's like, well, how are we going to do it? I'm like, that's not the point. We're going to, so I would say I'm the what and he's the how. And, but I get that now.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Because when you were saying that, I was like, wait, has your husband been talking to my husband? Because whenever I'm like, okay, so I have this idea and let me tell you, he's like, but how is that going to make any money? He's like, I mean, you have really good ideas, but I don't know how you make money from those. I was like, but that's not the point. The money will come. The thing is that what I'm doing is going to be great. And he's like, oh, okay.
I fully believe I'm completely you, like 100%. Yes. I will figure out how to monetize this. That's not what I would ever tell a client.
Right.
You need to think about the monetizing, and that's really important. But as a dreamer, I think we find so much joy in the process.
Yes.
And people who are truly analytical, and that's just what they are. They don't find joy in the process. They need to understand the end game. They need to understand the objective to what we're doing before, right? So it's understanding how people's minds work. And that is just crazy.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Because it's like, I'll be over here just like having a old vision board full of things. And he's like, but well, and okay, never mind. I was like, you got that right. Just turn and walk away.
But but you know what's so cool? And for anyone who's listening and like feels this is, I mentioned before, I come from a world where I owned a boutique, I owned a jewelry line, and I knew that ultimately I have 2 kids. It wasn't a place where I could produce product and live in that space of having a location forever. So when I decided to pivot, it was, well, what comes next? And I was like, I just have to like close that and give myself the space to see what happens rather than having like a plan. And the only thing I knew was like, I have to help other women do this, but I have no idea what that was going to look like.
Right.
So my point is like, and my husband kept saying, he was like popping all my balloons. Like he's just, you know, and like, I don't mind, I'm very optimistic. So I don't mind having like that in my life, but, you know, it does come, it does, if you allow it the space. If you come from a place of fear, then it's just completely deflated. Right. So as a dreamer, if that's something that resonates with you, it's okay to have that dream and then like strategize as you go and just kind of try. And that's how I built this business. Is really, I had 3 clients that I did this completely for free. And I tried 3 different processes with them, and I saw which one worked the best. And I let there be that trial and error period. Because I had built these other businesses, I had the time to do it, right? So that I could do it for free. I wasn't freaking out about the money. So then the business came, and that is okay. You have to be able to know like what works for your personality.
Right. Yeah. No, I love that. I feel like I feel like we're like the Spider-Man meme where they're like, where he's pointing at the Spider-Man, like, oh my God.
Totally.
All right. Okay. And so last, how do you end the day?
So I'm actually on the kick right now where I'm not drinking at all, but usually I will have a glass of wine and I will read. I have an audiobook. I'm like obsessed with audiobooks. So I usually like close out the night with listening to at least like 10 minutes of an audiobook. And right now I'm listening to Gabrielle Bernstein. I don't know if you know her, but she's incredible in terms of like mindset stuff. And the book that I'm reading right now, I'm going to share it with you because it's so good.
Awesome.
It just puts me in like a really nice mindset before I go to bed. And it's called Super Attractor.
Okay.
So I listen to whatever, like something that's in a positive mindset, and I let myself go to sleep with that. Because typically I'll watch a show with my husband and it's like super intense. So I need to
Yes. I'm right there with you. Like, I need like some time to just sort of bring myself back down from whatever we've been watching before I go to sleep. Because once I go to sleep, it's a wrap. Like, it's like, don't touch me. I'm not talking. I am asleep.
In bed, I'm done. Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, let everybody know where they can find you online and connect to you if they are interested in your coaching or your course.
Awesome. And even if you're not interested in any of those things, there's just so much value on Instagram is like where I live. I'm always in the stories. Katrina Aronson _consulting. And I am super obsessed with Clubhouse. So I'm always on in Clubhouse rooms, doing stuff about marketing, doing stuff about helping people with their business. So if you're on Clubhouse, it's K Aronson. And I'm constantly like showing up in rooms and just trying to help people that are at the beginning of their process.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was a great conversation. I've had such a good time.
So fun.
Yes, I had such a good time. And please know that you can always come back here and share anytime you like. Awesome. Well, stay tuned, guys. We will be right back.